All right, so one of my favorite games when I was a kid, I loved to play a game called Would You Rather, and I'm sure you've probably played some version of Would You Rather growing up. Here's a question I propose to you. Would you rather speak only in rhymes for the rest of your life or only communicate through interpretive dances? I don't know which one I would pick either, but let me know in the comments what you would do. And for this video, I'm going to propose a question to you. Would you rather be a NASCAR driver or would you rather be a gold miner? And why did I ask if you would rather be a NASCAR driver or a gold miner? Well, thank you for proposing that question. We're going to be talking about two different towns that are very closely related and actually border each other. We're going to be talking about Dawsonville, Georgia versus Dahlonega, Georgia, what they're known for, why they are good cities to live in potentially, and what they have to offer for you. Hey everybody, my name is Tim Gibson and my channel is all about North Georgia real estate. Please subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date with everything that's going on real estate related in North Georgia. And if you are thinking about moving to the area or just curious or had some questions, please feel free to reach out. My contact info is right here on the screen. All right, so let's jump right into it. Dawsonville versus Dahlonega, Georgia. Why would anyone want to move to either one of these towns? What makes them good? Let's talk about it right now. Okay, first and foremost, let's talk about the population. There's been a lot of press about the county of Dawson County, which is where Dawsonville is located, about it being one of the top 5 fastest growing counties in the country. There's lots of people moving in this area. So what does that actually look like? So as of 2022, the population of Dawsonville City is about 4,500 people, and Dawson County is about just over 30,000 people. Now that is changing, of course, every day. And I read a recent stat from one of the publications that wrote an article about how fast Dawson County is growing, and they mentioned that it was about a 5% population growth rate. All right, so what does that 5% growth rate look like for a county like Dawson County? Well, with a population of about 30,000 people, 5% a year is going to give you about 1,500 new people every year moving into Dawson County. All right, this is a little bit surprising to some, I would say. But Dahlonega is actually larger in terms of population than Dawsonville, Georgia. Dawsonville feels a lot more built up. There's a lot more chain restaurants and outlet malls and things like that. Dahlonega is definitely a lot smaller feeling town. But if you can see right here on this screen, you've got about 7,500 people that live in Dahlonega. And that's within the city limits. And then Lumpkin County, where Dahlonega is located, has about 35,000 people. So it's actually a little bit larger in terms of population than Dawsonville and Dawson County. All right, and just to contrast, the growth rate in Dahlonega that I've seen, the most accurate numbers from the county's website, is a growth rate of around 4.3%. So it is growing at roughly the same rate, maybe just a little slower than Dawsonville. If you're coming from a different location in Georgia or maybe a different state, and you're moving to one of these towns that I've mentioned, Dawsonville or Dahlonega, usually one of the first questions I get is, how are the schools there? So we got some information for you on the schools. First, we're going to talk about Dawson County. All right, we're pulling our information from niche.com, and as you can see on the graphic right here, Dawsonville schools, Dawson County schools get pretty good ratings, A's and B's across the board. And next we have Lumpkin County, which is where Dahlonega is located, and kind of similar ratings here from niche.com. Don't have any A's, it's all B's across the board for Lumpkin County schools. All right, since both counties are very similar in population, naturally both of the school system sizes are about the same. Dawsonville and Dahlonega both only have one high school, a couple of elementary schools. All right, medical care, let's talk about that. Northeast Georgia Medical Center just opened a new location in Dahlonega, so you do have some emergency room service there. You've got a few beds. It's a nice location, very good thing for Lumpkin County. And then Dahlonega also has a lot of, dentists, doctors supporting, different types of specialties and things like that. By contrast, Dawsonville does not have any type of medical center or hospital to speak of. There are, however, some medical offices. There are lots of primary care physicians and some specialists, dentists and things like that as well. If you live in Dahlonega and you need care that maybe the new medical center can't offer, you'll probably end up going to Northeast Georgia Medical Center, the main hospital, which is about 30 minutes to the southeast in Gainesville. Similarly, if you are in Dawsonville and you need medical care or emergency services, you would either end up in Northeast Georgia Medical Center in Gainesville, or just to the south in Cumming, Georgia. It's about 20 to 30 minutes south in Cumming, Georgia. You would end up at Northside Hospital in Forsyth County. All right, next let's talk about shopping. All right, the main draw for shopping in Dawsonville, Georgia is the North Georgia Premium Outlets. You have tons of stores. It's a great outlet mall. People come from all over really to visit the outlet mall in Dawsonville, Georgia. You got your standard outlet stores like Nike, Adidas, you've got an Old Navy, you've got all kinds of good stuff. And then you also have some super high-end stores. I believe there's like a Versace and Gucci store or something like that. As you can tell, I know nothing about those things. I barely even know how to pronounce the names of those brands, let alone have I ever shopped in any one of them. Dawsonville also has quite a few grocery stores, and all of this shopping area and this district, I guess is what you would call, is right there on Georgia 400, so it's very easy to get to if you live in Dawsonville or in the surrounding areas. So close to the outlet mall, you have most of your grocery stores as well. You've got Kroger, you've got Publix, you have a Walmart Supercenter, you've got Home Depot, and if you go into the town square of Dawsonville, you also have a Food Lion. So yeah, you got quite a few options that are very close together to choose from as far as shopping goes. And Dahlonega, this is where Dahlonega is going to be quite a bit different than Dawsonville. Most of the shops in Dahlonega are local. There are not very many chain stores to choose from. And most of the shopping in Dahlonega is centered around the town square. Yeah, so Dahlonega is going to be quite a bit different in terms of shopping than Dawsonville. Most of the shopping is going to be located right there on the town square in Dahlonega. You have a lot of boutique shops, you have a lot of touristy type shops, you got a couple of outdoor stores, but in terms of large retail chains for you to choose from, there's almost nothing like that in Dahlonega, which is also kind of one of the draws of Dahlonega. You find stuff there that you can't really find anywhere else. But if you're looking for a large chain, like I mentioned before, then you're probably going to need to go down to Dawsonville. All right, in terms of grocery stores, Dahlonega has very limited options. You have a Walmart Supercenter, which is basically the main grocery store in Dahlonega. It's right there in town. You also have a new Publix that is supposed to open somewhere around Thanksgiving of 2024. Currently under construction, and it's located right by the Home Depot, which is at the intersection of Georgia 400 and US 19, which goes into town, into Dahlonega. Pretty convenient location since Georgia 400 is a major commuter route for folks that are going south. Also, a lot of people from Dahlonega end up going to the grocery store in Dawsonville because it is very convenient. It's probably about 15 to 20 minutes to the south. This is where all the Kroger and the Ingles and the Publix is located. Next, let's jump into restaurants. If you live in Dawsonville and you want to eat out at a chain restaurant, then you will find everything that you could ever want. You've got just about every fast food option you could imagine. You've got Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, there's a Popeyes, there's a Bojangles, there's all kinds of good stuff. And then as far as sit-down restaurants that are chain restaurants, there's a Miller's Ale House, there is an Olive Garden, there's a Longhorn Steakhouse, there's an Outback Steakhouse, there's just about everything. There are some local restaurants. Papa's Place is one of them that I can think of. Blue Bicycle is another. But there aren't a ton of local restaurants in Dawsonville, Georgia. More suburban feel there. And by contrast, Dahlonega doesn't have hardly any chains outside of fast food. The fast food chains in Dahlonega that I can think of off the top of my head, you've got Chick-fil-A, you've got McDonald's, Zaxby's, and there's Taco Bell and a couple others. And then as far as sit-down restaurants go, off the top of my head, I can't think of any chain sit-down restaurants in Dahlonega, which is part of the reason why people love the area. So if you want small and you want a local restaurant, then Dahlonega is a great place to visit. Or if you choose to live there, also you can eat out at one of those great restaurants. All right, a couple of my favorites in Dahlonega would be Shenanigans. It's an Irish pub. Spirits Tavern is another really good place to visit. There's a new restaurant that a lot of people are talking about in Dahlonega that I haven't tried yet. It's called Public House. I'm gonna have to check that out and report back to you. And lastly, a very popular place for people to visit in Dahlonega is a place called the Smith House. I'm sure you've probably heard of it if you've heard of Dahlonega. Old, standard, great place to visit to get some good Southern cooking. Okay, so let's talk about some real estate in Dawsonville and Dahlonega, Georgia. We're picking a budget of about $450,000, which is just about the average sales price in both of these towns. And I wanted to give you just a quick idea of what you could expect in terms of what type of house you could buy in Dahlonega and Dawsonville for about $450,000. First, we're going to talk about Dahlonega, Georgia. All right, so the first house we're going to look at is 75 Fireside River Trace West in Dahlonega, Georgia. This looks like a newer build. I think it was built in 2022. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, just about an acre and a quarter. And I know a lot of you that are moving in from outside areas, especially places like Florida, you want a little bit of space. You don't want to be stacked on top of each other like sardines. So hey, you got an acre and a quarter of property right here. You got just under 1,600 square feet. And one thing to note, this house does not have a garage. All right, so that's it for Dahlonega. Let's jump into Dawsonville. All right, we're gonna look at 167 Trillium Ridge. As you can see right here, this house has been renovated. I think this one was built in the 80s, but it looks like they did a nice renovation here. You got 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, sitting on just over an acre of property. And this one's a good bit larger in terms of square footage, 1,000 square feet larger. All right, and this one actually does have a garage. It's a drive-under garage in the lower level. All right, so at least in terms of what is available on the market at the moment, you get a little bit more house in Dawsonville, and you're closer to some amenities and things like that. And the house that you can get in Dahlonega looks a little bit more like a vacation rental, a cabin type situation there. All right, so if you have been browsing around the internet and you're researching places like Dahlonega or Dawsonville as a potential place to move to, tell me what you thought about this video. Did this help sway your decision one way or the other? Or was there more information that you wish I would have given? Please let me know in the comments or contact me. My info is right here on the screen. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next video.